Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle. Once again, it is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands. Of course, heard around the world on the iHeartRadio application. Download today. It is free. The website, put the .com on it. Doggone it. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. All right. As we did yesterday, we do it again today. First segment opening out of the gates for everybody on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Heck, we might even be putting out some reels, some Instagram stuff. We do a lot here on the program. Check out the website as well. But again, the college football landscape has shifted over the past couple of years. The transfer portal, NIL, the college football playoff, that, of course, will be expanding in a couple of years as we were able to advance that with the permission of the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. So I'm excited about the future of the sport from that perspective because, as you know, if you hang out with us, I have been and probably will continue to be for a very long time a fan of the opportunity for more people to be involved in the postseason. And I think the NFL's model has proven to work. And I think that a larger college football playoff model will keep more fan bases engaged, will allow for the occasional hiccup along the way. And then maybe, just maybe, you have a little hot run in the postseason and hoist a national championship. But the thing that has come up here in recent days, not just from Clemson's standpoint, with DJ Uiagalelei going into the portal and Kobe Pace and EJ Williams. I mean, you can go on with the players that have gotten in the portal just from Clemson alone. But I never thought when NIL came around and the transfer portal came around, I honestly never thought that of the two, right? I never believed that the one that I would dislike the most would be the transfer portal. But that has quickly become the thing, and I said this yesterday, of these two separate entities in this ever-changing landscape of college football, the one that I like the least has become the transfer portal. And again, I know smarter people than I will sit in a room and will come up with an idea for it and a way to fix it in a way that could potentially make it better. I don't know what those changes are or need to be. I've made suggestions. And one of the things that I really dislike, and you know this if you listen to the program, I really dislike the ability for a player to participate in 4 games, no longer participate, go somewhere else and preserve a year of eligibility. Like in the old days, if you played, barring a medical event, you lost that full year. Well, I'm not necessarily in favor of penalizing players, but I am in favor of creating a system where we say you have 5 years to play your 4. And if you choose to play all 5 or you have that opportunity as a student athlete, go for it. But if you leave at any point along the way, you forfeit those remaining games. So Dakari Collins, Kelly Bryant, anybody that's had the ability to take advantage of this little 4-game rule, sorry. You have to stay with your team. But Swanee, the extenuating circumstances. No, listen. For years, essentially, kids got to play 4 years. We're now giving you 5. Do with them what you wish. If it's 5 years as a starter and you're never good enough to go to the NFL, then, hey, congrats. If one of them is a redshirt year and you get to play for 4 years, congrats. But don't come at me with some rigmarole where you redshirt and then have a 4-game deal where you decide you're not going to play anymore, and then you get that entire year back. It's not the way it's going to work. That's one thing that has to be fixed, because when you're coming down the stretch of a season, and I'm not just talking about Clemson specifically, I'm talking about programs across the country. They've got vacancies that they didn't expect because players quit on them. Well, Swanee, players used to quit in the old days too. Right. They did. And guess what? If they had played in 4 games, they lost that entire year. There was a consequence for your action. What we have sadly created in college football is basically a world where there's not a whole lot of consequences for your action. Or is there? And here's where the transfer portal becomes a big problem for a lot of college athletes. In essentially a day, over 1,000 players jumped into the transfer portal. Everybody looking for another opportunity. Everybody looking for a place to shine. You can give us your thoughts on the transfer portal. 803-450-0086. You can text us. You can message us if you're watching the show live. What are your thoughts on the transfer portal? I genuinely want to know what you think about it, because of the two, NIL and the transfer portal, this is the one that's the worst, in my opinion. So a year ago, I think about 3,000 players, according to what I was able to dig up, entered the transfer portal. And a large percentage of those guys did not find homes. And so the old saying of the grass is always greener is not even an appropriate phrase, because with what's happening with these guys, there is no grass. There is no greener. There's no landing spot for a lot of these players. And so if we kind of think about it from the protection of the student athlete, right? Like the student athletes were wanting this. And maybe even more so, it was some media members who felt like they didn't like the fact that coaches could just leave and break a contract and take a deal somewhere else, but players were locked into where they were. The issue to me is that there are so many players that are going to go into the transfer portal and not find a home. For whatever reason, maybe Coach A is more invested in trying to bring in guys out of high school. Maybe another place where you thought you would have an opportunity doesn't have a spot for your position. You know, the one thing that has gotten away from the student athletes that go into the portal is the protection that your scholarship sort of offers you at your academic institution, and the recognition that the coaches who you have been committed to are very much still committed to you as long as you're putting in the work. Now, there are programs out there. Alabama would be one where they'll go into JUCO and find somebody and recruit over you if you're not very good. Maybe they go find a better high school talent too, but for years it's kind of been that junior college route for a lot of schools. Clemson, not the only one that sort of avoids it, but certainly one of the more active in avoiding the junior college transfer method. You know, trying to stay committed to the guys that you're committed to. And look, do I think that DJ Uiagalelei would have been in a good spot next year at Clemson? I don't. I really don't. Because I saw the way the fans, that's you, responded to him throughout this year, and I can't imagine if he had to be the quarterback this coming season, what that would be like for DJ. But a guy like EJ Williams didn't put much on tape outside of his freshman year at Clemson. You don't want to look at the numbers, neither does EJ, believe me. Now, some might say, well, maybe that had more to do with the quarterback than EJ. then I would say, well, then EJ, why'd you jump in the portal? Give yourself a chance to improve and have that final run at Clemson. Because once you've put collegiate level tape out there, if I'm a coach and I'm looking at it, I'm not just going to give you a scholarship now because I believe that there's the player that people thought was inside of you coming out of high school. I'm just not going to do it. You might go play smaller college football, and that's fine. And maybe that's what some of these guys have learned. You've been the big dog your entire life. You've been the best player on your high school team. You may have been the best guy in your community. You can't even crack the too deep collegiately at a school like Clemson or Alabama, somewhere like Georgia. And so you decide to go, the old saying, I guess, fish or cut bait. You decide, hey, I'm cutting bait and I'm going somewhere else. But if the film that you put together isn't strong enough, why would somebody lean in and take you? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And again, if you go into the portal, the other problem is there's no guaranteed destination. And that might be the biggest issue, right? Because we want players to be able to move around. When a player is playing at Alabama, but they're from Michigan and their grandfather gets deathly ill and they want to transfer and go to Michigan State or go to Ann Arbor and play for the Wolverines. But the NCAA back in the day was like, well, sorry, this kid's, they've already transferred or, they can't leave for whatever reason. To me, that's where we don't look at the student athlete with the best opportunities for the student athlete. And that's how they got in this pickle. That's how they found themselves in a situation where now over 1,000 names are in. It'll probably be over 2,000 once the end of the bowl season hits us. And are there 2,000 available spots? Well, you say, Clemson's got a couple opening up now, with 9 guys in and Alabama with 11 or whatever all those numbers are at this point. But you have to fill a need where you go. If Alabama comes down to the point where they only need 3 offensive linemen, they're not going to take a wide receiver. It's just not how it works. Just not how it works. And I think the solution is you say you have 5 years to play. That's it. Do with them what you want. And if kids dive into the portal, they can't find the landing spot, well, they just burn a year. Consequence. I think back in the day, you used to have 6 years to 6 years to play 4, I think was the rule, because you could have a redshirt year and you could take a medical year and then you could get in it. But the portal and the way it works didn't have these types of numbers in the system. Linda chimes in today. She says, I hate it. Yeah, loyalty. Right? Loyalty to the school, loyalty to the coaching staff. And look, I get it. These guys make a lot of money, the coaches. And the players are making, some of them making a good bit of money too. And that might be why some guys are leaving, right? Because they think, well, if I'm not getting my NIL money at Clemson, maybe I can go get some NIL money at Auburn. Maybe I can go get some NIL money at TCU. Maybe I can land somewhere, become a bigger name than I am in my, my current situation. And it's worth it to take that risk. And I would make an argument if that is the reason that some players jump into the portal, that speaks even more towards the conversation of, hey, every player, a blanket amount of money, $3,000 a month, whatever that number needs to be, and make sure that every player across the country at the Power 5 level receives the same compensation. So that there's no advantage for me to leave my current school, because these kids that don't get back enrolled, these kids that don't find the landing spot, do you think they become college graduates? You think they make it to the NFL? I mean, what percentage of the guys that don't find a home out of the thousands that throw their name into the portal end up in college or playing football again? And what percentage end up going back home with not a lot to show for it, no NIL situation, and not in a better spot? I mean, that's why I've always said, players collegiately feel like, because some of them are going to go pro, not all, not many, as a matter of fact. But I think they've always felt a little bit entitled as we've gotten bigger. This sport has gotten bigger. And I get it. Like, you're on TV, you're the most popular people on campus. I mean, you go on and on and on through the benefits, swag, gear, clothing, tutors, food, all that comes along with it. And I'm not just talking about football players. But I've always said, like, if you said we're getting rid of scholarships, there's no more football scholarships, you could put Larry, Curly, and Mo in a Clemson helmet against Alabama's Larry, Curly, and Mo, or Joe Schmo from Okemo, or whoever, and you would go root for you pull for the helmet, you pull for the team. It doesn't matter to you who's in there. And if across the board there was no athletic scholarships, you guys would still root for Clemson, and the Gamecocks would root for the Gamecocks, and Alabama would root for the Crimson Tide. It wouldn't change who you pull for. And so Clemson was founded to be an academic institution, and athletics allows more people an opportunity to get an education that maybe otherwise wouldn't have a great chance of getting an education. I mean, it's opened up so many doors for so many people. And yet now we've got this transfer portal where guys who are given opportunity are stepping in. Maybe it's being influenced by a family member. Maybe it's just in the back of their own minds they can have a better deal. And if they can't find a landing spot, then what was it all worth? It's a wasted opportunity. This bothers me more than NIL by a mile because of that. Big Mick checks into the program. He says, I think a kid should be allowed to enter the transfer portal, should not be allowed to enter the transfer portal until he meets predetermined conditions, whatever those conditions are. Mick, listen, like, you put academics on it, right? You put all kinds of different things on there. Linda's asking about the academic qualifications. I agree. Like, the transfer portal, to me, is the biggest issue facing college football and college sports right now, bigger than NIL. And I think the two in conjunction can help each other. If we kind of push NIL away, get rid of that mindset, and flip into a deal where everybody gets the same thing at the same level. I really believe that would help. 803-450-0086. If you're watching us right now on the stream, we got to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow live just before the program. And if you're hanging out with us on the iHeartRadio app, stay with us. We'll be right back after this commercial break.